After 13 years away, Cold Feet returned for Series 6 a few weeks ago on ITV. As a massive fan of the show, I was delighted it was coming back and jumped at the chance to speak to the show's writer and creator, Mike Bullen.
From the home of TV news, interviews and reviews, this is the Custard TV Podcast.
How does it work? Do you bring it back? Does the channel approach you? How does the whole comeback thing work?
Well, it started with the channel. I mean, it can work either way. You can go to the channel and ask if they're interested. But this time it started with the channel, who came to the original executive producer, who came to me. And then it was a case of I had to write a script that would entice the actors to show enough interest. And that was a long, hard process. That took between 6 months. That took well over 6 months to get the script right. And I took 3 attempts at writing the first episode, and they were completely different stories. And it was only the third the third go at the script that I actually thought was worthy of anyone's attention. So we gave that first of all to the network, who said, yep, we like this. They gave it to the actors, who said, yes, we like this. And then it was a case, I think, of coming up with storylines to convince the network that we could sustain it over a series. And on the basis of that, they were prepared to commission a 6-part series. And then it was a case of getting the money together, because obviously they had to negotiate with all the actors. I wasn't involved in that process, but there was probably a bit of the actors looking at each other, wondering what they were all getting and so on and so forth. It's one of those things where, fortunately, there was goodwill on everybody's part. Everybody wanted it to happen, and so it has. And then
Were you worried that you wouldn't be able to remember the rhythms and the styles of it, or were you able just to sit down and sort of bring it back to life straight away?
Well, I watched the whole of the first 5 series again to remind myself, not least because I couldn't remember, all the backstories and so on.
And
it's
the
really
names of the kids and all those sort of things.
Well, exactly, and certainly their ages. We were sort of working out what their ages were. But in fact, watching it back in the pilot episode, Karen makes a reference to David's sister. I'd forgotten that we'd ever done that.
Remember that either, to be fair.
No. Well, there's no reference made to him having a sister anywhere else. And in my mind, he doesn't have a sister. So I sort of explained that away to myself that Karen was joking or having a slight memory meltdown. Because basically, in my mind, David does not have a sister. He has a brother.
Well, you could do an ITV crossover with Long Lost Family. And David could meet his sister with Davina McCall's help, perhaps.
That's brilliant, yeah. Fictional characters.
Yeah.
Good idea. And so watching it again, that helped to just bring their voices back and stuff. So actually, when I came to write it, that part of it was not difficult. Because the characters are based on real people, they talk in my own head. That's not a good thing.
I heard you on, I think it was Radio 5 Live, saying it's not an easy show to write.
Yeah.
What are the difficulties of writing a show like this?
You've got to satisfy, we've got a cast of 5 core characters, and you've got to make sure that they all have stuff going on. Partly the actors want to have a good role for themselves, and you need to satisfy them because they're all big stars. So, if you're making a movie, and I'm not suggesting James Nesbitt is Bruce Willis, but if you're making a movie, like let's say Ocean's 11, but in fact it's Ocean's 6 and 5 of them have got nothing to do, then they won't come along to play. So we've got our cast, so I've got to satisfy all of them, and also I've got to satisfy the audience. So you don't want them watching an episode going, well, David wasn't in that. So there's got to be something going on for each of them. You've also got to find yourself in scenarios where you can both move the audience and create laughter. So you're sort of serving 2 masters at the same time. So it is quite a challenge.
I love that photo.
Have you not got a more recent one?
That is recent.
Well, she's young, isn't she?
Not really. She's 30.
Oh, wow. 18 years younger than you.
Just a number.
Yeah. 18.
I think the reason it works so brilliantly now, I mean, it worked brilliantly then, obviously, but it works brilliantly now because there's nothing like it on TV. There's no simple, funny, emotional, human relationship dramas on TV anymore. Do you think that's why it's done so well and why people gravitate towards it?
Well, I think so. It is a difficult tone to get right, and I haven't got it right that often myself. Apart from Cold Feet, I did Life Begins, which worked
I love
well.
Life Begins.
Yeah, no, I was very pleased with that, but that's about the only other time where I've managed to get the tone right. And I've done other shows which haven't worked, and it's because it is an incredibly difficult tone to do, because comedy requires a departure from reality, and drama demands that you stay in reality, and so you're trying to marry those two conflicting requirements, and you have to walk a very fine line, which means that you can both keep it real and yet allow for amusing stuff to happen.
So what do you think?
That you shouldn't be getting married.
Oh, shut up. Here, look.
This be tighter in the back.
Tighter in the back.
I just don't understand why you are.
Because Angela's only got 6 months to live.
Oh, my God.
That's not true. I just said it to shut you up.
Adam, seriously?
What? Jen, do you remember what it was like to fall in love, eh?
Well, vaguely.
You know, the agony when he doesn't call, the ecstasy when he does.
Sorry, is this Pete we're talking about?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's what it's like for me with Ange.
That's because it's early days. You know, the first flush of romance. You don't get married off that. You wait till it's past and then see if you can still stand the sight of each other.
Yeah, well, we can't. Sorry.
Well, I suppose that brings up tonight's episode with Pete's depression, which is very moving and very effective.
I was keen to do that because, like with testicular cancer is not, or cancer is not a funny subject. Testicles are. So put them together and you've got...
I don't know why that made me laugh. I should have been professional there and not laughed, but there you go.
But you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So that lends itself. Similarly, depression is not funny, but a grumpy old man is. So again, there is a meeting point between those two which you can mine.
Box set is available. It was on the ITV Hub. Was there ever a discussion about doing a previously on Cold Feet? Because somebody who I speak to, who I'd made watch the episode, who hadn't seen the series, I don't know why we're friends, had said, well, it was good, but I didn't really understand the dynamics because there wasn't sort of a preamble and it went straight in. Did you ever consider doing a sort of quick previously on Cold Feet? Or was it a conscious decision to jump straight in with the flight back from Singapore like that?
That's a good question, because we started initially without any... We just thought we would jump straight back in. And then during the process, we thought, ooh, should we have a previously on? Which was quite tempting, not least because the characters would look so much younger. And yeah, we could have done... obviously that previously on would have had the car crash and the death of Rachel and Adam leaving. I just didn't think it was necessary, really. I don't know. We could have done it. I don't know, to have had a minute and a half, because you wouldn't have done any longer than that, which would have allowed new viewers to understand what was going on. I think in a way that's probably spending too much time for
those who have seen it are just desperate to start the new one, really, aren't they? So
yeah, exactly.
Kind of doesn't win there, really.
Yeah, I'd sort of hope that new viewers who liked it might go back and watch the old show, but...
A lot has changed in the TV landscape in 13 years, and Twitter wasn't around, and social media wasn't around, and overnights are perhaps a tiny bit less important than consolidated figures. Have you found it interesting or frustrating to be launching a show like Cold Feet now? Do you wish it was similar to the way it worked back in 2003 when people sat down properly in their millions to watch telly?
Well, that's really interesting because, again, when we came back, one of the considerations was how many episodes you're going to do. And initially, ITV commissioned 6 episodes. And I felt that we had sufficiently strong stories to allow us to do 8 episodes, but also I think that's one of the ways TV viewing has changed. 6 episodes is the standard, the previous standard for British series, but I don't think that's satisfying now. That's almost bite-sized, and if you're watching a box set, that's 2 nights viewing almost.
Or one day if you're really just got nothing else going on.
Yeah, true. So I felt let's do 8 because I think 6 it'll be over too soon. So that's one way the TV landscape has changed. I had to go back in after they'd commissioned 6 and pitch for 8, and I was really pleased that ITV went for that because this show is a big risk for them. It's an expensive show, it's 10 million quid or something. And if it didn't or doesn't work, then they've got a lot of egg on their face. But I just felt if it pays off, then the benefit from doing 8 will be that much greater than 6. Also, as you said, there's all this social media now. When the show was first on, we didn't really have Twitter. Or I don't think we did have... Well, we didn't. We didn't have Twitter. It didn't exist. And what, again, has overwhelmed me is just how you get the immediate response. It used to be, in the old days, you just got the critics, and they would always tend to be a bit snarky, and that was bloody irritating. But now, the critics are utterly irrelevant, because even
thank
before...
you very much for that.
I'm talking about the newspaper critics, because even before they get to say their piece... And there are only about 6 or 8 of them. But even before then, millions of people, or let's say thousands of people, have given their verdict on Twitter and Facebook and the rest of it. So their opinion, the opinion of the newspaper critics, they are just 7 voices amongst thousands. So they are far less important than they ever were. I'm getting the public's reaction to the show as it goes out, which is amazing. It's weird. And in fact, I didn't follow the Twitter feed while it was going out because I wanted to watch the show. But friends were talking to me during the ad breaks saying, Christ, you should see Twitter. It's going berserk. So
nobody puts the kettle on during an ad break anymore. They just go on Twitter and say how brilliant it is.
Yes. You see, people don't realize that the internet has really destroyed companies like PG Tips.
Those chimps have been out of work for years, haven't they? I don't know what they're doing. A lot of people have asked me to ask you, and I know you've been asked this a lot, and I don't think it's an answer you can give. How likely is more if the ratings and ITV are happy to continue? I mean, did you see this like a farewell tour, or did you think, I'm bringing Cold Feet back? Again,
it was interesting. When it was first mooted, Bring Cold Feet Back, the question was, how do we do it? Do we do it as a one-off special or like This Life? I think they did 2 parts, or we could do a mini-series. I always felt if we're going to bring it back, let's do it like we did it before as an ongoing series. And as before, we will just do it 1 series at a time. And if we feel there's more to do and the audience want it, then we'll do another series. I feel that we've set in motion stories that will absolutely generate enough material for a second series. So if the audience are up for it, then I would love to do a second series. The actors are all optioned for a second series. It all depends on the ratings.
When people talk about Cold Feet and its return, a lot of people were obviously focusing on that, the crash, which still haunts me, or the rose between the bum cheeks. But when you think of the show, what are your highlights and memories of it?
Wow, that's interesting. I've never considered that. When I think of the show, well, I don't think of any specific scene really. I suppose if I think of a specific scene, simply because it's one I've used again and again when I've done talks, and it's a scene that the beauty of it is not to do with my writing. I'm not even sure I wrote the scene. It might have been Matt Greenhalgh. It was a script we both worked on. But what I love is the way it is realised. So it's the scene where they are waiting in the hospital after Rachel's crash, and it's the moment where the doctors come rushing through. The friends are all just sitting there, spending the night waiting for news, and the doctors suddenly come rushing through. And what I love about it, if you get the chance, please do watch it again, is they use music by Craig Armstrong, which is incredibly powerful music.